me start recording now. Great. I'll share my screen. Thank you guys all so much for coming here, and we're gonna get started tonight. Oh, I guess I'll stop my screen share again and hand it off to Nicole Jean-Baptiste, who is a doula and one of the co-founders of BxRebirth, who will be greeting us and leading us through a grounding exercise. So take it away, Nicole.
Katie, thanks for introducing me. Good night, everyone. Happy Moon Day. Happy Black History and Future Month. So I'm going to lead us in a grounding exercise, and we can start. This might be a good, if you were considering turning your video off, this might be a good 5 minutes to do that, because we're going to be breathing for the most part, right? But you're welcome to keep your camera on as well. So let's start by concentrating on our breathing. Breathe in and out. Deeply in while your belly bulges, and slowly out as it relaxes down. In and out, just like that. Keep breathing slow like this. You can slow your breathing even further by counting. Breathe in to the count of 4. Hold your breath to the count of 3. Someone has joined us. Hold. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Breathe in and out. Keep breathing, letting your breath flow comfortably. You are learning the relaxation skill of slowing your breathing. You can actually feel yourself calming down as you breathe slowly and calmly. This calm breathing helps you focus and be alert and relaxed. You are learning how to relax under pressure. You can relax during times of heavy activation. Continue to breathe slowly, and every so often, just notice your breathing and focus on allowing your breathing to slow down. Now concentrate on your muscles. You may find that you are holding tension in your muscles. Pay particular attention to your shoulders, your hands, and your jaw. Be conscious about lowering your shoulders. Let your shoulders relax and allow the muscles to loosen. Relaxing your shoulders this way allows you to become calm because it places your body in a relaxed, easy position instead of a tense one. For all the birth workers, you know this. Notice your hands and let your hands be open, loose, and relaxed. Let your arms rest by your sides, letting go of all tension and just relaxing. You can relax during times of heavy activation. Focus on your jaw. Allow your jaw to rest loosely so your teeth are not touching. Let your tongue rest at the bottom of your mouth. Let your mouth be loose and relaxed. Now mentally scan your body, noticing any areas that are tense. When you notice tension, concentrate on relaxing that area. Allow your muscles to give up the tension they have been holding. Allow your body to relax. You can relax during times of heavy activation. Focus on your breathing again. noticing, relaxing. Count each breath again if you like. Breathing in to the count of 4, holding for a count of 3, and breathing out to the count of 5. Now concentrate on your thoughts. Imagine each affirmation that I'm going to say and believe each one to be true. Be inspired by the legacies of the Black liberation movement leaders whose names I will call. You may want to repeat each phrase and call on each ancestor's name silently in your mind. Relax, be inspired. I am calm, Ella Baker. I am relaxed, Tony K. Bambara. I know how to relax easily, Anna Julia Cooper. I relax whenever I want to, Ida B. Wells. I handle situations with ease, Coretta Scott King. I am prepared, Claudia Booker. I am focused, Malcolm X. I am strong. Now you have completed this grounding exercise that I've invited you to. You can relax again anytime you need to, whether you are heavily activated or you are doing what you do at home or in your private personal space. For now, it's time to return to our meeting. You can open your eyes, look around you, come back on video, and thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. That was fabulous. For those, we all just got some free dueling from Nicole, so please go follow her and the work that she does. And we'll have an opportunity in just a second for, I think, Evelyn Alvarez, also from BxRebirth, to give an update on what they've been doing. But I wanted to kind of get the night started by welcoming everyone here, kind of explain briefly who we are, what we're doing, how this meeting came together, and what our hopes and goals are for tonight and for going forward as a movement and as a community. Um, just before we get starting in a role, are there any elected official? I saw a couple of elected officials register for this, so I wanted to give them the opportunity, if they're here tonight, to introduce themselves and say hi. Uh, if anyone meets that quality, feel free to unmute yourself and say hi. And in the meantime, who am I? I am Katie Season. I use the social media handle at Brooklyn Grows. I am a midwife, a doula, and a former NICU nurse at SUNY Downstate Medical Center, which is a state-run hospital in East Flatbush, where in the 5 years that I worked there were incredible patient safety issues that led to numerous preventable deaths. And kind of at the core of what was going wrong at the hospital is we did not have the funding necessary to appropriately staff the floors where patients were receiving care, and so the patients were regularly receiving substandard care, not necessarily or not only because the people who worked there didn't want or didn't care to give their patients good care, but because there were structural barriers that kept us from doing those things. And so I resigned from my position as a nurse in 2019. And at the time, I had finished my midwifery degree, but I decided not to go on and to take kind of more power within the system that I did not understand but knew was hurting people. And so I've spent the last 2 years really digging into the structural issues that affect birthing people in New York and kind of the policy solutions um, to those issues, and in doing so have been working hard to work in collaboration with the other reproductive justice groups that around New York City that are doing great work on the ground. And if you want to know more about my backstory and who I am, I talk a lot about my journey in as being a whistleblower and issues at Downstate and other teach-ins that are on my YouTube channel. So I'd encourage you to go check those out. What is the movement to birth liberation? So that is essentially an aspirational title for the network of reproductive justice and birth justice advocates that is starting to come together in New York and around the country. And the idea is that birth workers and birthing people have a mutual interest in improving the lives of birthing people and the conditions under which people give birth. And there are so many of us. And so that if we are able to connect everybody who shares an interest in improving the lives of birthing people, and be able to connect them within their legislative and along various issues that they're concerned about, or that they various injustices that they witness and experience within their work, we will be able to organize ourselves in a way that we can write the bills and legislation we need to address the injustices that we are encountering, and we can get them passed quickly, because in every legislative district of New York and in every legislative district of the United States are birth workers and birthing people that could be working together to support those policies and getting them passed. So right now we don't have a ton of maternal health specific legislation, mostly because not a lot of maternal health organizations have been writing it. And so that's something that we would like to do with the movement to birth liberation, is that as we grow, we learn, and as we grow and work on supporting currently existing legislation that will benefit birthing people, we kind of learn the skills and tools we need to write our own legislation, and we can write it to be as ambitious and as bold and as transformative as we truly need it to be, because we will have connections in every district to get in touch with the representatives representing those districts to get that legislation passed. So that's, in a nutshell, the idea behind the movement to birth liberation. And I get similar to the last thing, if you want to hear more expanded ideas, last month at January's Movement Monday, I spent a lot more time elaborating on that idea and what that concept could look like. So please go back and check that out. And so for tonight, what are we doing tonight? The format tonight is going to look a lot different from January, and probably going to look a lot different from March, because we're all very new at this and learning how to do it and what works best via Zoom, and because we're learning. But well, I think kind of our mutual goals are for folks who are interested in reproductive justice and birth justice advocacy to hear firsthand from various organizations in New York that are working on the ground to advance birth and reproductive justice. And then learning some skills so that we can together advance the legislation that is already out there. Um, and also potting up and using this time as one of many spaces where you all can connect with one another, and to start forming the relationships that this network is based off of, and that that will grow and will grow the movement and push it forward. So I've spent the last 10 years really studying infant and maternal health, and then infant maternal health disparities, and then health policy related to it. I have not spent a ton of time studying political theory. So please forgive me if you know a lot more about this than me. If you know a lot more about this than me, forgive me, and please let me know so that way I can have you speak to this instead of me in future meetings. But I think what we're kind of our aspiration in the movement is to practice a form of prefigurative politics. And what that means is, if it means anything at all, is being committed to the idea that if we want to replace certain structures with other very different ones, then we need to reflect some aspects of that future structure in the movement and organizations we use to bring it about. So one reason why we started with a grounding exercise, and why that was not my idea. Nicole was like, I think we should do a grounding exercise, and I was like, I think you're right. And together and I think the reason why Nicole was right and why we should include grounding exercises is because we want to organize like the world we want to build. And in the world that we build, we're going to be grounded and settled and have community rhythms. And so as we organize towards that world, we're going to be practicing those things on the ground. And kind of similarly, like big picture, a lot of the policies that we're going to talk about today, even if they passed tomorrow, would have a several year implementation phase before you would start seeing those policies really helping people on the ground. And that's why at Movement Mondays, we're never going to just talk policies and politics. We're also going to be talking about the work people are doing on the ground now, with it, kind of government helping us, government not helping us. Folks are getting work done, and we want to give space for those people to share the work that they're doing, and so that we can support the work that's going on to help people now, at the same time that we are working on policies that will mean that fewer people need help and support in the long run. So with that, I'd like to hand the reins over to BxRebirth to update us on, or to introduce yourself, your work, what have you been up to, challenges, successes, and how people can be supporting you.
Hi. All right. I am Evelyn Alvarez. It's good to be here. Hi, Katie. I am one of the co-founders of BxRebirth, along with Nicole Jean-Baptiste and Carmen Mojica. Let's see what we're working on. We are working on quite a few things. So working on continuing the mutual aid. For those of you that don't know, BxRebirth started to be able to support families that needed immediate support at the beginning of the COVID climate. And so to date, I think we're close to donating over 100,000 diapers, supporting about 500 families in the Bronx with formula, donations. Some of you on this call have also donated, so we're super grateful for that. We have developed and established a doula corps under the leadership of Nicole. And I think to date, we have supported families with 10 babies. So that is actually pretty awesome. And right now we are working on finalizing a collaboration with Lincoln Hospital, where we'll be offering support to birthing people, as well as connecting birthing people, pregnant people that attend that hospital with doulas. So it's still in development, but we're super excited about that collaboration, because one of the things that we had wanted to do was to really collaborate with hospitals that didn't have as much of an ongoing relationship with doulas and doula presence, and to be able to really try to shift the climate there using our expertise. So what's working is that we are super grateful that community has really come through for us always and in all ways. And I think that the goal right now is to be able to continue to ask for support. Like, we're Nicole, Carmen, and I think we do a good job of really pushing, right, and continuing to do this work in a way that feels organic and honors birthing people in the Bronx. So I'm excited about what the future holds.
Awesome. Thank you, Evelyn. So I'm dropping the link to BxRebirth's website in the chat. If you click through, you'll see the donate button at the top. Go ahead and use that. Go ahead and share it with your friends. And then also, if you have big money or know people with big money that may be interested in investing in kind of bigger projects, or talking with Bronx Rebirth about like what they'd love to do if they had big money, please let us know. We'd love to start making those connections and really getting resources into the hands of people who are using them well, and using them to benefit their community. So thank
I
you.
like the way you operate there, Katie.
What?
Thank you kindly. I said I like the way you operate there.
Absolutely.
So if you got big money, or you know somebody with big money, please forward them to BxRebirth.org, and we will be in touch to take their money and utilize it in ways that are going to positively impact communities in the Bronx.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Mila, did you want to go next with an update from the birthing place?
Hi, sure. Yeah, I will happily go next. I'm just multitasking over here. But yeah, so I'm from the birthing place, and just want to introduce myself briefly. And I think, Katie, you want an update regarding like the current movements, yeah?
Yeah, just how are things going with the birthing place? Where are you guys at with you had told us about legislation last time, so where are you guys at in that process?
Okay, great. So as you all may know, birth centers are important. We need them in our state. That's the gist. And hopefully, if you don't know why, you can learn about it. See the part of the last video or a future teach-in that will come. Essentially, they're super inaccessible because of the laws that we have here in New York State, some outdated laws, and we've been working to try to make things better, coordinating with people in the state to finalize the language on the bill. There has been some amendments that we have sent and that have been received and edited into it, and essentially it's getting better. It is not quite where it needs to be, and not to say that there's anything wrong with it. There's just a couple language items where we are just getting more people to take a look, because it seems like it could be misinterpreted, and we just want to make sure we're like really thorough. And so we have people on the national level who are familiar with regulations in a lot of states, and we have someone in American Association of Birth Centers looking at it. And recently I attended
ideal regulations workshop, which is wonderful and insightful. So we're working on getting it to be what New York needs to truly create midwife-led birth centers freestanding here in New York State. So what we think we can use right now in terms of help would be that people in the districts of folks who are on the health committee, that they're just fully aware of the situation. So when the time comes that when we get consensus on the language, that everyone will be ready to push it forward. Again, it's getting closer to what we want it to be. And if your rep is a member of the health committee, then we'll lean on you even more, because we want to make sure that your rep will be paying close attention to really push the bill forward, because I'm confident that we'll get it to the language that we need it to be. So I think that's the gist of the movement. So stay tuned. And another request, if you don't know already, is to please sign the petition that exists to remove obstacles from midwife-led birth centers, as well as perhaps donate to a birth center near you. And one of the ones that we're opening is in the Bronx. So that can be found out there in the interweb. All right.
Great,
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mila. As Mila mentioned, last Movement Monday, Mila did a deep dive into like the benefits of birth centers, and also on Instagram you'll find an IG live where we do kind of like a brief breakdown of the birth center issues and the New York Health Act. So those are two other places you can find good information on what we've been up to. Also, I put the link for the petition in the chat, and you'll also see I put a Google Doc for the Birthplaces Grassroots Policy Team. So when Mila says, so if your representatives are on the health committee, we're going to need you to get in touch with them. And if you're thinking, how do I know whether or not my representatives are on the health committee? That's what the form is for, or one of the reasons that the form is there for, is that we, when you fill out the form, we look up, it gives us the information to look up who all of your elected representatives are, and we're able to put that in a database and then connect you with everyone else who's in those same legislative districts. And so kind of how we organize is as as Mila's been working very deeply with folks in the birth center community, and I've been working very deeply just in policy and politics. When we come together and we're like, oh, okay, we need to reach out to the people on the health committee, I can go to my database, look at all of the senators on the health committee, see all the constituents who live there, and then you get an email from us saying like, call to action for constituents of such and such district. And we'll give you instructions and help kind of loop you in with how you can be supporting us at each stage of the way. So
can I add just one thing to that too? When we talk about looping you in, Katie and I haven't decided on a date yet, but we're talking about having 2 teach-ins. One would be about birth centers, why they're important, and some data for outcomes. And so just like to really fully understand how it can benefit our community. And then another one would be the legislative history here in New York, what came before us, where we are now, and where we need to go, so that when you are discussing with your electeds, that you can have it as part of your own system of understanding.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mila. Yeah, so I think we're good on the birth centers. Yep. Is anyone from the SaveARose team or the Birth from the Earth team here tonight to give us updates?
Hey Katie, it's Sangeet.
Hi Sangeet.
I'm here for Birth from the Earth. Nubia's not feeling well.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, my update is
feeling better soon.
Thank you. I'll pass that to her. Our update is we have a training coming up. There's still slots available. If anyone's interested in expanding their birth skills to include midwifery assistant, so like birth assistant for midwives, that's happening this Saturday. Other than that, we don't have anything else going on per se, like as it pertains to social justice or birth justice activities.
Great. Well, thank you so much for that update. Or is there anything happening with Earth Grounds or any update from the open house you had this month?
Yeah, thank you for everyone who came. That was great. And the training actually will be taking place there. Yeah, no, everything went well. And thanks for everyone for their support.
Great. Well, thank you so much for that update, Sangeet. Is there anyone from the SaveARose team that wanted to give an update?
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm one of the people helping out SaveARose. Bruce is not here, but just a few things, nothing crazy. This month we are trying to honor Amber. Her birthday's on the 23rd, so we're gonna have a few events, spaces where people that experience the same trauma have a space to heal from, or have they healed from the trauma. So we are planning some events that will be coming up. So we'll be sending out some information on that, and it'll go live on our Instagram page. And Katie is also supporting us with the acts as well for Amber. So that's all we have on our end.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing, Katie. And I'll bring up that act that Katie mentioned a little bit later today about what that is and how we can be working to support it. It's in the very early stages, but very exciting about potentially how that could develop. Great. So and I put in the chat the form for the SaveARose volunteer team. So if you want to be on, so essentially the SaveARose team and the birthing place forms, I compile all that information into the Movement to Birth Liberation because like the movement doesn't and won't do things that SaveARose and the birthing place aren't already on board with. Like we'll be in conversation generally about our aims and goals and what we're trying to do as the movement. But if there's ever issues that are like the birthing place specific or SaveARose specific, it'll be great to have you in those specific databases as well. So that way, like Mila can access that information without having to get in touch with me. So if you want to be in touch with all three organizations, sign all three forms. It'll be great to have. Great to have you. So let me share my screen again and we'll get talking about some of the policy stuff that's happening these days. So something I skipped over earlier, but as we talk about Mila talked about like looping people in, and I mentioned before, like come early or like come late, leave early, don't worries about it. Hopefully, like my dream is that kind of everybody who is a part of the movement is connected with other people who are also in the movement. And so what I want to encourage folks to do starting now, and maybe we'll think of better ways to facilitate this via Zoom going forward. But it's just for folks to connect with one another. So if you need to leave early tonight and you saw someone introduce themselves in the chat that lives near you or is in the same specialty as you, maybe privately message them in the chat and say like, hey, I'd love to, I have to leave early, but I really want to hear everything else in this meeting. Here's my number, want to catch up sometime later this week, and you can you can fill me in, vice versa, offering to update your friends who weren't able to make it. As birth workers, something, and as a birth worker organizer, something I'm really realizing is we have to work in teams. We have to have we have to work in teams for our clients so that we don't get burnt out and exhausted. And we have to work in teams when we do policy stuff, because what if they announce a bill that's going to be brought up for a vote, and they announce it Monday and Tuesday they vote for it, but Sunday you went into the hospital for a 3-day induction with your client. So if you're the only person who knows how to get in touch with your reps and you're busy, oof. What hopefully we're working towards is teams of people, pods of people, so that when you're at a birth, you don't have to worry if there's policy stuff, because you know other people from your district who you're connected with, who you're buddied up with, are able to pay attention to those things and fill you in once you have time, and vice versa. I think just knowing myself, I'm a lot more it's much more exciting for me to call a friend and see how they're doing and get caught up than it is to watch a long Zoom recording on YouTube. So please think about who else do I know who is involved in this movement, who can be kind of my Movement Monday buddy. So if I ever have to miss it, they can go and we can catch each other up. How can we grow and deepen the relationships that we have with one another to strengthen the movement going forward? So that's, I just skipped that slide, but I have been getting lots of emails of like, I'm going to be late, or my kids go to sleep at this time. I totally get it. Like there's never one time that's going to work for everyone. So the more that we, take notes and share with other people and continue to, call our friends and keep them in the loop, the better. And just before we go on to the next thing, if you are from an organization like BxRebirth, SaveARose, that's doing reproductive justice work on the ground in New York, and you would like to be a part of future Movement Mondays, please just reach out and let's talk. The answer is probably yes. Let's just get to know each other. It's all relationship based. So let's do it. So now we'll get to
Katie.
Yes.
It's Sangi again.
Yeah.
Actually, there's one thing I forgot. Nubia is going to be featured in a Women of Westchester panel.
Oh, great.
It's called Achieving Health Equity, Navigating Black Maternal Care. And that will be tomorrow, 7 to 8:30. Can I send you this flyer? What's the best way to get this to everyone?
If you put it in the chat, Natalie, wave hi. Natalie is helping take notes and helping me put together like a follow-up email that will have a lot of the links that were in the chat in case you missed them.
Okay, put the link in the chat. All right, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. So for policy stuff, here's what's going on. So just a quick note on the New York City Council races. So the New York City Council members serve 2-year terms, and there are term limits, I think, after 5 terms. There are lots of term limited council members who need to resign this year, and lots of candidates who are running to take their places. In New York City, pretty much all of New York City, besides areas of South Brooklyn and Staten Island, is super firmly Democratic. So whoever wins the primary in June is most likely going to win and be your city council person in November. So this is something I totally did not understand 3 or 4 years ago, was how primaries worked. And I was like, humph, I live in New York City. How am I ever going to have a say in who represents me? Because it's just always going to be the Democrat. And then I was like, oh, I need to start paying attention 6 months earlier and be paying attention to candidates in the primary, because that's kind of where the real contest is. This year, for the first time in New York, we have ranked choice voting, which is very exciting and something I know absolutely nothing about. So, and it's probably not something that we're going to be able to put together a teach-in on, but it's something that lots of other civic groups in New York are doing teach-ins on. So just pay attention, and sometime between now and June, try to make it to a teach-in on ranked choice voting, so you have a little better understanding of how that's going to work. I've been getting emails from various city council campaigns who are looking for help and insight in developing a maternal health platform. My expertise is very much on the state level, and so I have like some things to share with candidates, but mostly I think the movement building thing that can happen between now and June is that when candidates email me and say, hey, I'd like help developing a maternal health platform, is for me to connect them with everybody already in their district, and for us to meet as a group to talk about you guys as doulas who live in that district, as birth workers who live in that district, as birthing people who live in that district, what are your concerns? What would you want from your city council person? And then I can be there as well to kind of like weigh in on the policy expertise that I have to offer. So that's we've mentioned before other people's forms. So here is the main Movement to Birth Liberation form, and please make sure you get that filled out, because that's how you're going to know if a city, like if a candidate in your district got in touch with me. If you're not in the database, I have no way of knowing that to include you in on that conversation. So I know there are actually a couple of candidates for city council who are here on this meeting, and I wanted to give them the opportunity to just unmute themselves and introduce themselves and how people can find out more about you.
Well, hi everybody. My name is Kenya Handy Hilliard. I am running in the 40th Council District in Brooklyn, which is PLG, Prospect Clifford's Garden, Crown Heights, Midwood, Kensington, PLG, Ditmas Park, and Caton Park. And I'm a mom of 2 young kids. I have a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. I don't know how I get to do this, but it's a blessing. But it was really important for me to join in with you all, because I have been trying to get an understanding, just as a constituent who just had 2 C-sections, wishing that I had the support of somebody who can then, say whether or not I had the power in a situation to say, should I go for an emergency C-section or not? And in my my research, I realized that a lot of these hospitals are just defaulting on C-sections. And so my own experience, but also just, trying to get plugged into a community who can help me craft that policy, craft that platform, so that we can go forward and implement it. There are a couple other women in my race, and really looking at how we can just come together as women to fight against big capitalistic healthcare, because that, at the end of the day, what it's really about. Because if I had the choice, I'd be in the woods by a stream somewhere, having my baby. So, I really look forward to continuing the conversation and getting an understanding of how we can come together on this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you want to drop any information in the chat of how people can find out more about you, that would be great. Are there any other candidates in the Zoom that wanted to introduce themselves?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Rita Joseph. I'm also running in the 40th, but I've also been working. I dropped my op-ed that I wrote in April about morbid mortality. It's something close to me. I'm a mom of 4 boys. I'm an educator. I also live in Brooklyn, so this is very close to my heart. I also work with SaveARose. I work with Bruce in protesting and writing. We were together in the hearing in City Council. That was one of the heaviest days that I've been in a long time. It was a heavy, heavy day. And I've also worked in Brooklyn with CWHA and crafting policies and making sure that when we get elected, we continue the work for you as community activists and also as elected. So thank you again for having me, and know that you have a friend and an ally in this cause.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, please feel free to drop any follow-up information in the chat. Were there any other candidates in the Zoom that wanted to introduce themselves?
Hi, I'm Casey. I'm a midwife. I wanted to introduce my husband. We're tag teaming doing bedtime, but he's actually running for city council. So let him say hi himself.
I'm not running in the 40th, but good to meet all the candidates in the 40th. I'm running in the 39th, which is Park Slope, Kensington, Windsor Terrace, Carroll Gardens, Cobble Hill, Gowanus, a little bit of Borough Park. And I am so excited to know that this group exists, to know about it through Casey. Casey is a midwife and a birth educator. She's worked in public and private hospital settings. She runs Parent Craft, which does birth and labor prep. And through her and her community and the New York City midwives, I've been able to learn a lot about birth in New York City, and been able to be supportive in fights around birth centers, around access to midwifery. And it's something that I want to continue to be talking about in the campaign, both the role of midwives, the crisis of morbidity and mortality in the Black community, access to different choices you can have in childbirth, as well as education and support through birth and beyond. So I'm excited to meet you all. And as Casey said, we're tag teaming on bedtime, so only one of us will keep kicking around. And
we just heard a thud.
And we just and we have 3 kids, so we don't have 4. We have 3. And it's lovely to meet you all. And I want to be an ally and a champion through this race and in City Council.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Again, feel free to leave any information to follow up in the chat. Were there any other candidates? Honestly, I didn't think we'd have 3. I'm pretty excited. Well, thank you guys all for joining us. We having 2 candidates, both from the 40th district. This is why ranked choice voting is so great and exciting and important, is because often there are more than one really good candidates in the districts, and that way you can vote for both of them after you do research and figure out, like the nitty gritty, which one you'd want to go first and second. Okay, well, that's great. So, and if you're jonesing to get in touch with your city council candidates and they haven't reached out to me, please feel free to let me know that that's something that you're interested in doing, and I'm happy to help you and guide you in any way to engage with those candidates strategically. Great. So now we were supposed to have an update from Lisa, who got trapped in the snow and wasn't able to make it to our Zoom tonight. So I'll do the very mini Momnibus update. The Momnibus is a piece of federal legislation. And the main thing that the Momnibus does is provide a lot of grant money specifically tagged for areas that have a disproportionately high maternal morbidity and mortality rates, for Black-led community organizations to use that money to implement programs to combat those issues. So it is not a cure-all. It's not we pass this bill and we fix maternal health problems. No, but we pass this bill and we do get millions of dollars into the hands of people who are best suited to address and tackle racial health disparities and health problems. So let me get this in the chat. The second week of February, Lisa and I are going to do a little working group for people who want to get more involved in Momnibus, more involved in supporting Momnibus, want to learn more about it, want to get some advice and guidance in how to reach out to your rep to get them onto that bill. So please, if you are interested, go ahead and fill out that Google form of when you would be available for the Momnibus working group, and particularly for constituents of Representative Espiat, who represents the 13th district in like North Manhattan, South Bronx. He's someone who we'd love to meet with soon because he's MILA's congressperson, and we want to make sure that A, we get his support on the bill, and B, that when the bill goes through, the Birthing Place is one of the organizations that can get some of the grant money to go towards establishing the Bronx's first birth center ever. Or I don't know ever. Bronx's first freestanding birth center for now. So yeah, so if you're interested more in that, fill out the doodle poll, let me know some way, and we will keep going in trying to call our representatives and get them to co-sponsor this bill. I spoke, Bruce and I had the opportunity to speak with someone who works for Lauren Underwood's, Representative Lauren Underwood's office, who's the prime sponsor on this bill, and his understanding of why it didn't pass last year is essentially because coronavirus happened and it just got lost in the cacophony of things that were happening. Things are settling down some at the national level, and so now is a good time to be pushing for the Momnibus and to be getting it passed and getting some of those dollars to the people who can use it and who will best use it for on the ground programming. So that brings us to our juiciest update of the evening, and that is what has been going on with the New York Health Act and the amendments to improve the New York Health Act for birthing people. So the New York Health Act is New York's New York state level Medicare for All bill that, when it passes, would institute a universal, guaranteed, equitable system of health insurance that covers all New Yorkers, regardless of immigration status, marital status, employment status. You have a body, you have a body that lives in New York, it's covered by the New York Health Plan, which is what the New York Health Act establishes. So in 2019-2020, there's 63 state senators in New York, and for the last 2 years, 31 of them have been co-sponsors of this bill, which means we are one vote short from having Medicare for all, health insurance for all in New York. After the November election, our odds have only increased, because it used to be we had 40 Democrats and 31 of them were on the bill, 9 of them on the fence. And now we have 44 Democrats, so 13 of them on the fence, or 13 of them that we need to convince. And some of the newer senators seem like they may be swayable. So this could be the year that we pass the New York Health Act and get health insurance for every New Yorker. Now, recognizing that, and I've been working on the New York Health Act advocacy for a while, and I did it long enough that I actually read the text of the New York Health Act, and when I did that, I said, I think there are a couple of things missing from this bill, and a couple of ways that we could improve it for birthing people. And so last fall, we had a series of teach-ins that you can find on YouTube that get really into the why we need universal payer healthcare for reproductive justice, and then the how of what the New York Health Act is, how it would be implemented, and how we can improve it for birthing people. So last Movement Monday, January 4th, we had updated you that we had been able to sit down with Assemblymember Gottfried, who is the chair of the Assembly Health Committee and the original author of the New York Health Act. He wrote this bill in the early 1990s and has been trying to get it passed since. And so we sat down with him to review our recommendations. He said, these sound great. I'll obviously need you to speak with my counterpart in the Senate to get his opinion on these recommendations as well. And then we'll go from there. So on the 15th, we were able to have a meeting with Senator Rivera, who is the chair of the Senate Health Committee, and Assemblymember Gottfried from the Assembly. And we were able to meet with them both together to go over our recommendations. And the night before, they sent me a version of the bill with new language added, some of it word for word, the suggestions that we had made in December. So we were pretty excited to see that at least some of the suggestions and recommendations that we made had been incorporated. I think simply and importantly for birth centers in New York, we got the words birth center added to the types of facilities that can receive insurance reimbursement, so we don't have to play games later on of is it a hospital? Is it a clinic? No, it's a birth center, and that's fine because those words are in the bill itself. But there was a series of recommendations that we gave them that we are currently in a point of disagreement about. And so I'm excited to loop all of you guys in to what that is and to get your support as we go forward in really trying to push for these amendments. So essentially what the New York Health Act is only 25 pages long. And if you're thinking that's not enough pages to fully describe how a universal healthcare plan would work, you're right, because it doesn't really describe how a universal health plan will work. It describes the process through which those decisions will be made. And it does that by establishing regional boards throughout the state that will generate recommendations and elevate them to a state board of trustees. And it is the state board of trustees that will make most of the decisions on how the New York Health Plan is, how it works, how it's carried out, what it covers, how much it covers it for. And so as it stands now, that board had so there are some great things about the board is that it has 6 seats for people who represent patient advocacy groups or consumer advocacy groups. So theoretically, BxRebirth as a patient advocacy group could push to try and get a seat on the board from that direction, or any patients' rights, disability rights type group would be able to have a seat at the table in shaping those decisions. But the thing we took issue is that the board gives 3 seats for physicians and 3 seats for all licensed healthcare professionals who are not physicians, with no language indicating that any of those healthcare professionals have a focus on pregnancy and birth health, and no language to ensure that LGBTQ folks or healthcare providers with a specialty in LGBTQ health would have representation on the board. And so our recommendation to the chairs were to keep the 3 doctor seats, the 3 non-doctor seats, and to add a seat for midwifery and 2 seats for nursing. And then either a seat for an LGBTQ healthcare provider or some kind of language that says out of the 9 healthcare providers, one of them needs to also be represented, representing an LGBTQ health constituency. And so that was our recommendation, and they came back to us saying that they came back with an updated version that had 5 non-physician seats for all licensed healthcare professionals who are not physicians, and 3 for doctors. And so in the meeting on the 15th, we essentially spent the entire hour talking about how we really like how it's better, 5 seats is better than 3, and we're more likely to get midwives and nurses into those seats if we have 5 instead of 3. But given the historic oppression of these female-dominated professions and the historic profession of the birthing people that they serve, it is incredible, given those things, and the fact that pregnancy is the most common reason for hospital admission in the country, and that C-sections are the most common major surgery being performed in the country, like, given that a huge chunk of healthcare is pregnancy care, that we need to have designated representation on the State Board of Trustees for midwifery and for nursing. And so we had a great team of people there. If you were there, go ahead and raise your hand if you've been a part of this team. It was amazing popcorn of folks kind of chiming in with, like, it wasn't any one person giving reasons. It was 15 of us birth workers all coming at Rivera and Gottfried with reasons. And they made lots of facial expressions like, oh, like, I think a lot of the points that we were making, they had not thought of, were not fresh. If they hadn't thought of it before, or if they did not know yet, they certainly weren't fresh in their minds. I think it's been a while since Rivera and Gottfried have had any babies themselves. So it was somewhat like refamiliarizing themselves with the needs of a huge constituency they oversee as chairs of the health committee. And essentially, since that meeting ended with them saying to us, essentially, like, we've heard you, understood, we'll get back to you soon with final language. So they didn't make any commitments to us in that Zoom. So what do we do? Well, we want to be, we're trying to be pretty careful and conscientious that the fact that we didn't get them to change their minds to exactly what we wanted in the context of an hour-long meeting is not I'm trying to be careful to not like blow that out of proportion, because Gottfried and Rivera have very consistently been very strong supporters of health justice causes, have gone out of their way to support health justice initiatives, and have made very politically risky moves in Albany with people higher up than them for the health of New Yorkers. So I came into the meeting with a lot of respect for these legislators. I left a teeny bit miffed that a group of assembled experts in women's health weren't able to get them to immediately see our side. But leaving that meeting, essentially how we have been trying to continue to push that issue and push for midwifery, nursing, and LGBTQ representation on the state board is by getting in touch with female legislators who we already have relationships with, and who we are already well allied to, and who we know know Senator Rivera and Assemblymember Gottfried, and essentially familiarizing those female legislators with our talking points and having them try to approach Gottfried and Rivera behind the scenes to continue that conversation and really emphasize how important it is to us as a birthing community to have that representation. So I just wanted to pause here for folks who had been a part of that process to just share if you wanted to share like your experience participating. Janice, we had chatted before, if you wanted to share about like your participation on this team and what we've been up to.
Yeah, definitely. Again, I'm happy to be here. I'm like, really excited. So I'm a constituent of Senator Gustavo Rivera. So when I said where I live, he was like, oh, okay. So Katie got, everybody like, coming from all different angles to, convince him. So So I think, as Kitty's saying, it was like, and it's like a whole different like paradigm to think about. It's new for a lot of people, even for me, like midwifery care. Nobody talks about it in New York City, really. It's always, oh, you're pregnant, go to OBGYN. It's like midwifery is like, what's that? Especially me as a Bronx parent, Bronx woman. There's no birthing centers in the Bronx, so like the only one that I knew about was Brooklyn. I wasn't gonna go all the way to Brooklyn to use a midwife. So it's a big push. It's a sensitive topic, so I'm just hoping that they understand the necessity and like why it's so imperative, because babies are born every second basically. It's like always a baby born, like it's just important. So yeah, I enjoyed that meeting, and it was just so sad. It was only an hour long, and we had a whole lot more to say, I'm sure.
Thank you so much for sharing. And yes, we do have a lot more to say. And the way we get more time with Rivera is having more people bugging him to get him to sit down with us for future meetings. So again,
I'll be bugging him.
Yeah, please fill out that Movement to Birth Liberation form so we can loop you in to what's going on in your district. And if you live in Senator Rivera's district, I'm essentially going to be saying, buddy up with Janice, and she's going to help loop you into to calling his office and being like, yes, midwives do need a seat at the table. Thank you. Great. Thank you for sharing. And so last week I was able to speak with Assemblymember Ferris Dufront Forrest, who is a radical nurse representing Crown Heights, who I was involved with her campaign and supporting her through her campaign. And she was like, I got you. I'll text, after, she's like, I'm going to text Dick and let him know that nurses and midwives need a seat. And I was like, cool. Richard Gottfried's first name is Dick is how he goes by people who know him. And then coming up this week, we have meetings with two other female legislators, one with BxRebirth that the Bronx doula Grace Roman helped me get. Grace, would you mind just unmuting yourself and sharing briefly about how we got that meeting?
Hey everyone, good evening. It's Grace. I am a doula working in the Bronx. I've been here for almost 10 years. Pounding the pavement. Anyway, I was able to connect with Katie, and then she gave me the information I needed. And I sent out an email to Assemblymember Reyes, and she quickly replied right back. That's all it took. Just a quick email saying, hey, my name is Grace. I am a doula in the Bronx. I'm really interested in, maternal health and the disparities that we're facing. I would like to speak to you. And there we go. That was it.
Awesome. Thank you, Grace. Yeah, I wanted Grace to share because sometimes it's super easy. And sometimes I think people get really like, how am I going to make a meeting with my representative? And some people won't take your calls, and it will take a little bit more strategizing and working with people in the district to get in touch with them. Other representatives are really great, have great constituent services, and you reach out to them and ask for a meeting, and you get a meeting. So thank you so much, Grace, for helping us get that meeting set up. Assemblymember Reyes is another nurse in the assembly, so we think she'll agree that nurses should have a seat at the table. And if you are interested in kind of getting involved with this New York Health Act stuff, we are always looping people in as we go and expanding the team of folks who are working on it. So our next meeting is with Assemblymember Gonzalez Rojas Thursday at 4. So Thursday at 2 is just kind of going to be like a check-in for people who have been working on it, for people who haven't been working on it. Either way, come, we'll check in with each other, strategize about next steps. We've been working on like a document and like some fact sheets to give to legislators try and firm some of those up. So that's that Zoom that I just dropped there. Before I go on, I see, I think Bruce has joined us, and maybe I may have missed that Assembly Member Sufrant Forrest joined us, and so if either of you want to unmute yourself and say hi, please do.
I'll go first. Hey everybody, good to see you guys. So big month in February. Amber's birthday is actually coming up, February 23rd. She would be 27. So we actually have quite a few events planned out this month. Our fundraiser is going live tonight. And we have events scheduled for the 11th, the 18th, and the 25th from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's on a Thursday. And the first one on the 11th will be Surviving Fathers. I'm going to be interviewing fathers such as myself, Charles Johnson, Omari, Khalil, everyone. So it's going to be a beautiful thing, and I definitely would love to see everybody there. And but yeah, we definitely need to push. I need as much help as I can get with this, so we can launch Amber's legacy and get everything started for her. Thank you guys for joining us.
Great, thank you so much, Bruce. As we somewhere in the chat is the form to if you want to get involved specifically with SaveARose things. And Bruce, if you can make sure someone from the SaveARose team gets us the information about those events, we'll be sure to send it out to everybody here so that they can attend those events. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing.
Yes. I just wanted to say hi, Katie. I just wanted to say hello to everyone on this call. Sarah Forrest, Assembly District 57. So anyways, I just wanted to say that this is amazing. As Katie has said, that it is very important that, you know, that okay, Assemblyman Godfrey get on board with this. I do want to echo that it's super important, whether or not they are they're on this or they're not on this, hit up your local representatives, because you'll be surprised who knows who. And then for people who are meeting with Rojas in the next couple of weeks, she did a lot of work with Planned Parenthood, so she does know what a midwife would. But my secret plug for you is to push her to talk to more people.
Okay.
Tell her to go call people for you too, okay? Because like I can call people and I text people telling them, hey, by the way, you know, Aileen Gunther, hello, you on health committee, you should be talking about this, whatever. Same thing for them too. They could do the same thing too. That's what they're getting paid for. Mm-hmm. And then I just wanted to say that today was really cool. We voted on 3 bills today. One, we had the C-section for more information, a bill to push for more information. These doctors be lying to these patients, talking about, well, not lying per se, but I was a maternal child health nurse. These poor girls would leave with a missing bladder, a missing fallopian tube. Now they got 5 weeks of wound care. They don't tell these ladies that this is major abdominal surgery. They just say, get the baby out. So more information. 2, breastfeed, a study on breastfeeding. 15%, Black babies are 15% less likely to be breastfed. And then you got this stupid WIC program that keeps on pushing formula on the poor mamas. So that's one we talked about today. And then the last one was preterm labor, Rodney Bichat's bill that was named after her son that passed away. So today we did some major stuff for Black maternal health. I'm happy to report. And ladies, let's kill it. And gentlemen, let's do it. I'm so excited to work with you. Call me anytime, please, because I'm looking for legislative bills to push. So if you know something or you have a clue if something is wrong, just send me a one-line sentence there are people in the legislative drafters that write bills. That's what they pay it for. So whatever you got, send it and I'll push it forward. Even if I don't sponsor it, I'll find somebody to sponsor it. Thank you.
Thank you. Fair, just to help us out, how many people work for you on your staff? Like, as an assemblywoman, and how many people do you have at your office to help you out?
3, 2.5 really, because one of the guys, he just really does districts. 2.5, I'll say.
Yeah. So I think, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think that's super important for us to realize is we have some legislators who are fire, who like want to do all of the things to get us to a world where we are bringing our, like, to get us to reproductive justice, to get us to liberation. And they have 2 people on their staff to help them write bills and do things. So as much as we can as a movement and as a community work on drafting bills, work on that type of support, help Farah out when she comes out with legislation on other issues to help get that passed. That's how we're gonna see real change. I think something I was super frustrated about when I was just starting out as an activist is I would go to legislators and like essentially be like, can you write this bill for me? And they're like, I can work with you to write the bill if you want to do it. And I was like, harumph, aren't you a legislator? Shouldn't you be writing the bill? And I didn't realize they had like 2 or 3 people on staff and not the time, like I've been now researching, doing research for bills. I'm 2-3 years deep into really understanding an issue well enough to create legislation. So we need to really crowdsource our knowledge, crowdsource our efforts in coming up with legislation that will bring real change. So
also,
yeah,
just one little thing. There are 3 you have 3 expected mamas in legislature to this year. So there's plenty of room, okay, for support. So please send them out. I swear, we're ready for them.
Thank you. I didn't know there were 3. I knew there are a couple of pregnant people in the legislature, and I've been thinking about how to best support the pregnant and postpartum legislators that we're going to have this year. I think that will be a real fun project for our birth workers who also like to organize, is let's come up with like really dope pre and postnatal care packages for our legislators and essentially like show them what the model of care should be so we can legislate it into so we can make it into law for the future. Great. So I'm gonna try and have all of the main points out by 8:30 and everything. Yeah, and thank you guys for being here. I don't know if we'll get to the interactive portion for the night, but we're still learning a lot, I hope. I just want to pause here. Were there any, because I saw there's some questions in the chat. Are there any questions that are pretty pertinent that you want me to get to before we end? Oh, cool. So
I just want to point out that a question came up earlier. I don't remember exactly what it was. I believe it was, here we go, will all providers take this insurance? The New York Health. Yeah.
So once the New York Health Act passes, you can either accept the New York Health Act health insurance or you can't accept any health insurance at all. So you'll either be fully private pay or fully taking insured clients. And I think there's legislation I think there's wording that makes it very difficult for you to deny New York Health Act patients.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, that's the best news ever. Yes, I love it.
Yeah. So like New York Health Act solves, it's like so many problems, so many injustices get solved with this one act. Like just think about doulas themselves. Like, doulas need health insurance. So many doulas are working a second job just to keep health insurance because they can't afford it through the private market. So like, for our own selves, we should want this to pass to make our professional lives easier. And that's not even getting into the hospital financing inequities that our current private public model of insurance perpetuate, that would be eliminated by going to single payer. So yes, I'm super excited about the New York Health Act, and please, I forgot to, let me reshare my screen. And that's the last slide for the New York Health Act is, while we're working on the amendments, I've been less working on the bugging the holdouts to sign on to the legislation, but that is something that we should all be getting involved with and doing. So some ways to do that: follow the past New York Health hashtag. Whatever social media you use, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, there's an option to follow hashtags, and that way you get to see all of the posts under that hashtag. And then that's like a really easy way to stay up to date if other organizations are hosting town halls or teach-ins, and to see what other groups are working hard towards the New York Health Act. And then also go to the Central Campaign's website, the Campaign for New York Health, and just sign up and give them your information. So that way, sorry, I'm just needing to get to the chat box. So that way you get updates from them. So that way you get updates from them if I'm on vacation or if I'm not forwarding things or whatever. So let's see, 3 minutes, super wrap up. Okay, all right. Okay, Natalie, take it away with Invest in Our New York. I think that's the best way. So if you guys can stay on for a couple extra minutes, I'd love to be able to get through the rest of the content at a normal pace. But essentially, the two other state level initiatives that we're working on is taxing the rich, and Natalie's going to tell us about that in a second, and reparations. And so I'll just say, quickly on the reparations bill, there's a reparations bill that would initiate the process of paying reparations for New York State's participation in slavery and segregation. And I think it's really important for us as a movement to be lobbying for that legislation, because racial health disparities and infant maternal health outcomes started when we created race for slavery. And since we created race for slavery, which is where the disparities started, the disparities have only gotten worse. So for us, if we really want to tackle this issue at the root, we have to actually tackle it at the root and address some of the original sins that our country and our state participated in, that set the stage for the inequities that we see today. It's also important for us to be working on the reparations bill, because right now we know that over 60% of pregnancy-related deaths are preventable. And in New York, which has the most dangerous hospital system of any state in the nation, I think it's reasonable to assume that more than 60% of deaths are preventable. And so if 70-ish plus deaths or percent of deaths are preventable, so more likely than not, if a pregnant person dies, we could have done something to prevent it, then why are we putting the burden of responsibility for pursuing justice on the family by going through an incredibly arduous and emotionally taxing malpractice suit? So an idea I have, and something we'll be chatting with Farah about hopefully soon, is developing legislation that would pay reparations to families that have experienced a pregnancy-related loss, so that it makes up for, so on just a very basic level, helps care for the financial needs that are created when a family unexpectedly becomes a single parent household. And yeah, so that idea of paying reparations. I worked at a state-run hospital. I wrote my bosses that things were very dangerous and something bad could happen to our patients. And the next day, a mother died of 6. And the last I heard, all 6 of those children are living in a 2-bedroom apartment in Canarsie. So like something from essentially the second I heard that it was this mom in our hospital, I thought we need to be paying these families money. We need to, and when we're a state-run hospital, and if it's the state, that's usually I think that's called reparations. And so I was able to speak with Senator Rivera as a very baby activist 3 years ago, and he was like, cool idea. Do you know that they've been trying to do reparations for slavery for a while and that's not gone anywhere? And I said, no, I did not know that. Very good point. Yeah, very good point. And so essentially we want to work on the reparations bill that exists now because it's the right thing to do, but also because we want to prove that it is politically viable, like the concept of reparations is politically viable, so we can write and pass bills that will make sure families that have experienced losses like Bruce will get paid and won't have to worry, won't have to hustle on GoFundMe to just try and get their basic expenses met. So that's the reparations bill, and then I'm going to throw it over to Natalie to chat about Make Billionaires Pay, and then all of that together is all the policy we're working on. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. Natalie, go for it.
Woo! Thanks so much, Katie. Okay, I'm just going to go real quick because we are over time. So hold on one second. Let me share my screen. Here we go. Ready? Break. Okay. Can you see that? Thumbs up. Okay. As we know, it's past time to tax the rich. Every single thing Katie said would be better if we had more money. And how can we do that? Tax the ultra billionaires. And my very cool assembly member just said even the thousandaires, but that's for another time. So today, recently Cuomo, he's counting on federal aid. He's ready to cut social services. He does not want to tax his friends. And that is just not going to work for me and for our city and our state. And so a group of a bunch of different organizing groups has formed what they are calling the Invest in Our New York Act. Woohoo! It is a package of 6 bills that will tax the ultra rich, and they estimate that'll bring in over $50 billion annually, which would be great going forward every year, not just during and after this pandemic, but every year going forward would be amazing. I am not a finance or really a legislator expert, but the bills come in groups of taxing incomes with a progressive income tax, taxing investment income as wages, also then taxing wealth and inheritances, which would need an amendment to the Constitution to tax that wealth, which is, okay, great, we'll get that done. And then also taxing big businesses and financial sector and having a Wall Street tax like lots of other cities and countries do. And of course, rolling back, those tax cuts. I like to know what the timeline is. I'm always like, how can I get involved? Where are we? What's going on? And so right now we're in the process of Cuomo submitted his budget and he doesn't want to tax his friends. And so right now during February and early March is when you can call your legislators and tell them to, quote, sign on to the Invest in Our New York Act. It's very important that you say the whole thing so that they understand where to go. And that's really important because some of the bills don't exist yet, or I'm not exactly sure, but if you say the Invest in Our New York Act, they will know the 6 bills to sign on to. And so that's what you can do right now. Really important is call your legislators, and then they go back and they talk about it. And so we just keep calling and pressuring them for the next month or two so that when the budget comes out in April, April 1st is when this gets decided. So this is really prime time, clutch time. And here's more of what you can do. Call your people, specifically say the Invest in Our New York Act. Similarly to like Katie said, follow the Invest in Our New York hashtag. It's Invest in Our NY, not New York. I was tweeting the wrong one for a while, so do Invest in Our NY. Sign up for teach-ins and learn from other organizations. I've been really following the DSA. They are doing a really, really great job. I'm going to drop all of these links in the chat for you and in the follow-up email that comes out, but they have tons of volunteer opportunities, phone banking, door hangings. They do a phone bank where when you call a constituent, you then connect them to their legislator to leave a voicemail. That's the coolest thing I've ever heard. And then Katie and I will also be having a Tax the Rich working group, either February 23rd or 24th. A doodle will be coming your way that you, if you want to join us, let us know which date works best for you, and we would love to have you. And that, do I know how to do this? Is it. Let me get out of here, but do I know how? Oh no. Uh-oh. We're trapped. Katie, help me.
Is there a stop sharing screen option? It'd be in red at the bottom of your screen.
Literally no. Hold on. Now y'all can all come to my computer, but nope.
View option.
Sometimes there's a little bar at the top. There you go.
It just showed up. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Natalie. Yeah, so if we had more time, what we were going to do for the action today is have folks look up your state senator and see whether or not they are on. So when Natalie said some of them aren't bills yet, essentially the legislative session started for 2021-2022 January 6th. So all of the bills that had been introduced last year for like the last legislative session need to be reintroduced again. And so like pretty much every week you're going to see a bunch of bills popping up that may be brand new, or they could be essentially bills that didn't get passed from the last legislative session, revamped and with a new number. So when Natalie said like some of them don't have bill numbers yet, only I think 2 of the 6 of the Invest in Our New York bills have official names and numbers yet, and they are both. One is sponsored by Senator Brisport and co-sponsored by Senators Salazar and Jackson, and the other is sponsored by Senator Salazar and co-sponsored by Senator Brisport. So if you are not a constituent of Brisport, Salazar, or Jackson, then please reach out to call your people to try and get them on those bills. So on this, if you don't know who your people are, if you live in New York, the easiest way, or if you live in New York City, the easiest way to find out your representatives is to go to mygovnyc.org, and you type in your address, and it gives you all of your representatives, your community board, your city council person, your state reps, your federal reps. If you live in Long Island or upstate New York, I just sent through the other websites that you can use to find your members there. And then if you live outside of New York City, there's the main website to find your congressional representative. And if you don't live in New York, every state in the union has a state senate. Some senate, not every state has an assembly. Sometimes it's called something different, like a House of Representatives, or I don't even remember. But essentially just Google who are my state reps, and then the state that you live in, and one of the first things is going to be a search engine that will get you to find out who your individual reps are. And so once you find out who your reps are, start to get to know them more. So follow them on social media, make a Google alert for them, so when they come up in the news, you see what they're up to. if you go to their websites, let's see, here's Julia Salazar's website, contact. They often have a place where you can put in your information to sign up to get like newsletters from the office, and that is a great way to stay updated, to get to go to town halls, if you're looking for opportunities to get FaceTime with your representative. Their news, like they often send you a newsletter telling you when and where you can do that. So make sure you're signed up to hear from them. And then essentially the last thing I wanted to do is to check how, you know, when you see a bill come out and you want your person to support that bill, how do you know if they're on that bill or not? Well, here is, okay, so here is Senator Brisport's bill that taxes gifts over $50,000 and inheritances over $250,000. So if you have more than $50,000 to be giving as a gift away to somebody else, you can pay a little bit of taxes on it. Is the gist of this bill, and were it to pass, we would raise $8 billion more each year to go to New York State's fund. So the first thing you do when you look at a bill is just make sure it's from the right legislative session. So I'm just double checking that it's 2021, 2022, so I'm not looking accidentally at an old bill. And then I see, who is it sponsored by? Brisport. Who else is on it? Co-sponsors, Jackson and Salazar. So pretty much everyone else is not on this bill yet. Now, some of you are going to have, like Senator Zelnor Myrie was on 12 of the 14 tax the rich bills in the last session. And so the fact that he's not on this bill right now is probably much more representative of the fact that he has like 4 or 5 people on his staff and it came out 3 or 4 days ago and they just haven't gotten the chance to like sign up as a co-sponsor. But oftentimes when, particularly for new bills like this, oftentimes when you call to ask them to co-sponsor, you're really doing a service for your representative, because they may want to be sponsoring this type of legislation and it's just hard to keep track of all of the bills that are coming out. And so I just wanted to kind of show you guys, like, when you see if and when you see a bill comes out and you're like, oh, that seems like a good bill, I want that to get passed, click through and see whether or not the people who represent you are already supporting it. And if they're not, go ahead and give them a call, ask them to co-sponsor that bill, and that is more or less how we will get things done politically. At least that's as much as what we could fit in for tonight. So let me stop that share. So that was, thank you guys so much for sticking with us through a lot of content. And I think that's all we wanted to get to tonight. I guess we will be sending an email shortly with all of the many follow-up opportunities that we discussed today. Kind of the one we want to hammer home is, please make sure that you are in our legislative database so that we know what districts you live in and we can help connect you to the right people. And yeah, thank you guys all so much for coming, and I look forward to getting to know folks. If I don't know you already, I look forward to getting to know you going forward, and to working together to collectively dream and birth liberation, a liberated world. And I'm happy. So please, so that's it for the night. Please feel free to leave, but I'm just gonna stick around for like the next 5 or 10 minutes in case anybody has questions. I'm happy to stay on as long as you guys, as long as anybody, if there's anybody who wants to mute themselves and chat. But for everyone else, thank you guys so much for coming. I hope you have a great night. And if I didn't respond to something personal in the chat, just email me, or I'll try and touch base with you soon. Have a great night, everybody.